Hey, welcome back. My name is Dr. James Hopkins, aka Doc Hops, and I am a licensed chiropractor in the state of Florida. And welcome back to my channel, Cairo Philosophy Mixtape. And so I have a new series for y'all. And so we're gonna be talking about PI cases, everything to do with PI. That's short for personal injury. Not private investigator, not doing no 007, Inspector Gadget, none of that. But my name is James. um, not Bond, but Hopkins. No, I'm kidding. But yeah, so I titled this series AA Crash Out, AI Crossover dash PI cases, and the AA is short for auto accident. The AI is short for artificial intelligence, as I'll be using some AI content I found online here from a company called Fox Animated Engineering. That's AKA Fox-AE, and they do animations and illustrations for trial, where they use these simulation videos to reproduce actual events and cases that are covered. And so they create media content to help jurors, judges, and opposing counsel understand arguments with greater clarity. And so they're reproducing like slips and fall cases or medical malpractice or car accidents. In this case, so I found a few clips that I wanted to use for this series, and so I put little snippets of them in the trailer if you've seen it. And so yeah, so shout out to them. Pretty cool stuff, I must say. And so yeah, and also uh, we know who the real AI is, right? Mr. Allen Iverson, the answer. You know what I'm saying? That's why I had to rock the L do rag here, the mesh do rag here with the black bandana. You know, uh, shout outs to AI. Talking about practice. Talking about practice. Not a game, not a game, but practice. But nah, huge fan growing up, so I thought it was a cool play on words. And we're gonna be in the paint, y'all. We're gonna be in the paint with these PI cases, all right? And so yeah, it's been a while since I've been on here, and so as you can see, I got a new set here, you know what I'm saying? Got a new mic. I had to warm the mic up, you know what I'm saying? And yeah, so it's a little different, but we're gonna get into it. And so first thing we're gonna cover is talk about what a PI case is and talk about some Florida statutes since that's where I'm practicing out of. And so before we break, I'm not wearing a backpack. This is called a posture corrector. All right, it's not a back brace. It's called a posture corrector, and it's not used to fix your posture. It's highly recommended from us chiropractors and healthcare professionals. It's to help you notice your slouching and build awareness and improve your muscle memory. Because most people sit at a desk a lot for work or at home, whether you're crashing out on social media or busy at work or entrepreneur. We know gotta keep that posture right, and it's also to help you avoid overcorrecting your posture, because that's the thing too. When we're like, oh, about to slump down, we overcorrect, and it can lead to injury and whatnot. And this is to uh, not be used for long term. It's a short term tool. It's to be used 30 minutes daily, especially starting out. And I think you can increase up to about 2 hours. And you don't want to wear it too long because it can weaken your core and back muscles. So we don't want to rely on it. And so I've never used one before. So I recently picked it up and thought it'd be cool to use. I have a mild scoliosis, and so figure why not try it out. And so it's not a replacer of stretching, exercising, and going to get chiropractic adjustments, right? It's just to help as a tool. And so that's what I'm using it for. And as you can see, you put it on like a book bag though. You have straps on both sides, right here. Put it on real easy. And the braces around your spine there. So you can adjust it to your comfortability. And yeah. And so, yeah. So that's what I'm sharing with you if you would like to look into it. They're easy to access. I found this at Walmart for around $15, so they're not hard to find. And so yeah, I hope you enjoyed the series. All right, let's get into it. PI cases. All right, welcome back. So we're gonna talk about personal injury. Define what it is. All right. So personal injury, the definition is a physical, mental, or emotional harm caused to an individual by negligence or wrongful conduct of another party. And PI cases are a civil legal dispute where victims seek financial compensation for physical or psychological harm caused by another party's negligence, recklessness, or intentional misconduct. And there was I was watching some Judge Faith, no, it was Judge Mathis, yeah, Judge Mathis. I was trying to find some content there. And there was a case where it was a car accident where a guy was pretty much stalking this social media influencer and intentionally hit them with their car in a car accident to be able to access them. So they followed this person and got into a car accident to get in touch with them because they weren't, I guess, responding back to their DMs. It was crazy. I was going to use it, but I was like, this is ridiculous. So yeah, intentional misconduct. Like, I don't understand why they weren't locked up for that. That is crazy. I'm gonna say it. That's some crazy-ish. Anyway, yeah, you can find it on YouTube. It's called Accidentally on Purpose, Judge Mathis. Crazy. Anyway, so with a personal injury, you can submit a claim, and number one can be for liability, where the defendant owed you a duty of care that they breached, like in a car accident, you know, where we're all driving safely, minding each other's space and safety while we're on the road. But you do that when you are at fault for in a car accident, right? And then number two is causation, where the defendant's breach or actions directly cause your injury or injuries. And then number three is damages. And so that means you suffered measurable losses, which can be medical bills or lost wages, things like that. And so now I'm going to talk about the Florida statutes, all right? All right, so Florida state. So Florida drivers they must carry personal injury protection, which is to cover initial medical costs regardless of fault. And so core coverage involves, number one, medical bills up to 80%, necessary reasonable medical expenses up to $10,000. Number two is lost wages. So you reimburse 60% of lost wages up to $10,000. And number three, God forbid, death benefits, which if you need a funeral or burial, up to $5,000. And let's see here. And so registered vehicle owners in Florida must carry $10,000 in personal injury protection and also $10,000 in property damage liability. Okay? And so the Florida statute of limitations says that generally you have 2 years from the date of the auto accident to file a lawsuit. And there's something called modified comparative negligence that states that if you're partially at fault, the amount from the 10K is reduced by the percent of your blame. And then if you're more than 51% at fault, you're completely barred from collecting anything from the protection, from the personal injury protection, recovering damages that include economic, like medical bills, mediation, lost wages, and then there's non-economic, which include pain and suffering and emotional distress. And I was listening to a video podcast about, it was like a lawyer and a medical doctor and a psychologist talking about car accidents and the hidden injuries that, like the mental health side of car accidents and what that looks like with victims recovering from PTSD and things like that, and emotional distress, right? And so you have to look at it in more of a holistic lens than just physical injuries and damages to the cars. You have to look at that psychological, emotional side as well. And let's see. So back to PIP here. So also there's critical rules for claim deadlines here. So there's a 14-day rule that states that you have to have treatment within 14 days to receive personal injury protection benefits. And there's also emergency medical condition, which is short for EMC. And so if the doctor determines that your injury doesn't qualify, then you get capped at $2,500 from the 10K, from the personal injury protection. And so, so that's the Florida law there when it comes to car accidents with personal injury protection. And so that's kind of its own thing there. And so hope you learned something from that. And now we'll get into our next segment here, where we talk about the psychological aspect a little bit. So let's get into it. All right, peace. All right, so now we're going to talk about some of the psychological aspects of PI cases, car accidents here. And so I want to bring up let's see, her name is Elizabeth Loftus, and she's a renowned cognitive psychologist who's known for experiments that revolutionized our understanding of human memory, right? And so she has an experiment from 1974 called car crash experiment. And so what happens is she conducted this with a guy named John Palmer. And, and so this famous study demonstrated something called the misinformation effect. And so what happens is how certain leading questions can alter a person's memory of an event. And so specifically with car accidents, they did an experiment and had participants watch films of traffic accidents. And what they had them do, they asked them to estimate the speed of the cars in these accidents. And how they did it was they asked, how fast were the cars going? Were they how fast were the cars going when they smashed each other? For instance, they use that word, smashed, and then they use how fast were the cars going when they collided with each other, right? And then so on and so forth with how fast were the cars going when they bumped into each other, when they hit each other, when they contacted each other. And so, depending on the severity or how intense that specific word sounded, they got answers that directly correlated with that question. And so if they say, how fast were the cars going when they smashed against each other, they said they estimated significantly higher speeds than the other answers. And and so that tells you that the brain, it it's hard for it to tell the difference between uh, you know, what actually happened and what they thought happened, right? And so it's saying that that human memory is malleable, that it can change. Um, when you throw in different expletives or words a certain way that can emote different things, right? And so she has something that says that memory is reconstructive and it's not reproductive. So memory is not a perfect video recording that we can just always reference, right? That's not how the brain works. And so that because it is reconstructive, that there can become new ideations, new errors, right? And so that's why legal professionals are trained to use neutral language and ask open-ended questions. And so that was very interesting, right? And so when you look at an eyewitness, for example, they're not really good tools to use because um, it could be misleading information, right? And so let me see. So misleading information overwrites the original memory, replacing it with new detail, like we were saying. And so that leads to source misattribution, which is when an individual remembers an event and new information, but forgets where the new information came from, right? And so they're confusing the suggestion with the original detail that actually took place, right? And so yeah, that's a very interesting that that's how the human brain works. And then check this out. So a week later in this experiment, they said that the participants falsely remembered seeing broken glass at the scene when they were asked about it, and there weren't any broken glass at the scene at all, you know. And so and so I and so that gives you an idea of why we have the justice system set up the way it is, and why um, you know um, court in dealing with cases and whatnot have to do it a certain way. But I feel like a lot of lawyers manipulate that and how they ask their questions. You see it in movies all the time, right? When they try to get um, when the defense tries to get a witness to say something or try to get the person on trial to admit guilt or what have you. Like you see it all the time in movies, right? And it's like they manipulate that psychology, and it's up to the the uh, the plaintiff or the the lawyer going against them to know how to uh, move around that manipulation. And I guess that's just part of the game, I guess. Like all these trials going on around the country right now, I can immediately say, okay, they didn't have a good defense, or they probably should have chose a better lawyer or something, because that just don't make sense. Okay, and so yeah, that definitely opened my eyes to um, how to find better ways to be more objective and less biased when it comes to things like that. And then in car accidents, you see it all the time, uh, where you'll have one person saying, "Oh, this happened," and then you get the other person's side of the story. Right? It's gonna be different, right? And not that that they're trying to be malicious or lie on each other, but that's just how the brain is, right? And and yeah, with that being said, for the next segment, we're gonna get into uh, an accident that I found with Judge Faith, and you know how they deal with the car accidents and whatnot, and kind of leads into the car accident experiment and all that. So we're gonna get into it. All right, let's go. All right, and so before we get into Judge Faith and the PI case she dealt with, I just want to bring up back to Florida, Florida personal injury protection. That with most cases, 95% of situations are resolved through private settlements. So most never go to trial, and um, so yeah, I was actually the first major car accident I got into was in Florida, um, in Jacksonville, and I went through PIP and all that good stuff. And then when I went to chiropractic school, it I carried it over with my chiropractic care to um, South Carolina with the because I went to school there, so I carried my PI case over, and it was just a lot more running around with lawyers and all this stuff, making sure uh, I'm getting what I'm supposed to be getting, and you know, it was just a lot more headache with dealing with it being out of Florida, um, with communication with the chiropractor I was with in South Carolina, and them understanding the lawyers from Florida, and it was a lot. In my case, that case didn't settle until like 3 years and a half after it happened, and it was a lot. And so, but yeah, I've been in a few car accidents. Some weren't my fault, and some were my fault. And one in particular that was where I was at fault. Um, I was in Jacksonville, Florida, and this is when I served in AmeriCorps for a year as a health educator, and I served under the Florida Department of Health, and and so this is when the Department of Health was still off the University Boulevard, if you're familiar, in Duval County. I was leaving, and I stopped by. I usually don't stop by gas stations in that area. I just wait till I get home. But I just said, you know, what the hey, I'm gonna just ain't gonna take that long, and I'm gonna just get this gas and be on my way. And so, as I'm getting out my car and whatnot, I think I go in and pay for the gas. There's this wino, this guy asking for money and stuff, and I'm like, I don't have any. I'm good, you know, you know. I don't have anything, and you know, and he was just asking every single person that walked by him, you know, and this particular guy was African American, and there was another guy who he asked for money and whatnot, and this other guy was a white guy, and he wasn't having it. he after telling the guy no, he went back into the store after he left and started telling the guy begging for change and whatnot to leave and stop bothering people. And they walked out the store arguing, and I don't know if they about to fight. I don't know if somebody about to pull out a gun or something. And I'm like, all right, I'm out of here, you know. And not that I didn't feel like I was gonna be in harm's way. I just didn't want to see it if something were to happen. And because once you already have the element of a guy asking for money, and then you have the racial element of this white guy getting on him about it, and I just I didn't want to be around it, and so I'm trying to pull out, and there's two lanes. One lane is going straight, and one lane is a left turn, and I'm trying to get over into the left turn lane, out of the gas station exit, and I the I have an opening. I thought I had an opening to get past the first lane, but not the second lane. And so thinking I'm good, I thinking I'm clear, I still go through, and I end up hitting somebody on that was in the straight lane trying to get over into the left lane, and they were still waiting on the light to change, and so I kind of sideswiped them on my way out, trying to get away from the situation, and when we pulled over and whatnot to exchange information, we had to wait on the cop for like almost an hour to get there to make the police report and all that, and this it was a whole family. It was like it was an Armenian family, and the mom was really pissed at me, and they were the other family members were pretty understanding, but the mom, she was mad at me, mad, and I felt so bad. Like they had children in the car, right? Now their car, I had a sedan, Dodge Dart, and they had a SUV. There was barely any scratches on our car. It's like it didn't get in an accident at all. But my whole right side was shattered. I'm talking about the front driver, the front passenger side door, the back passenger side door, all that is like crumbled, windows shattered, and yeah, it was bad. And, I mean, it was my fault. But yeah, and they didn't think I was American, and I was like, yeah, I'm from here, and I guess because I didn't react in a stereotypical way, I guess they figured I wasn't from here. I don't know, but yeah, my point was that in the report I didn't even say anything about the beggar guy and the other guy getting into a confrontation of why I was trying to rush out of there. I didn't even bring it up. I don't know why. I was younger. I was in my 20s. I didn't even bring it up to my family. I just told them that I was trying to leave out a gas station into turn a lane and hit somebody. I didn't know how to express myself in that way, I guess, at that time, and I don't know how that could affected the case or whatever, but I never even divulged that information, and so the whole thing about the car accident experiment and how in the moment when accidents happen is totally the whole fight or flight, it's all part of it. And so I just wanted to just share some of my stories of getting in accidents. So yeah. So now we're gonna get into Judge Faith and her case, and yeah, we'll go from there. Peace.
My homie Molly used to stay 79th made one of my friends from back in the day.